Hi, I'm Russell.
And I'm Ken. In our workshop, Managing the Unmanageable, we offer the B.E.E.F model that you can use to structure your conversation.
B.E.E.F stands for behaviour, example, effect, and future. Let's go through each of these words one at a time.
Behavior. Tell them exactly what the problem behavior is. Remember that this may be the first time that anyone has pointed out to them that this behavior is inappropriate. Or they may have fooled themselves into thinking that it is appropriate because no one has called them on it before. So it may take time for this new information to sink in. To help them out, introduce the problem with a clear statement, be specific on what the problem is, and select the most important issue and deal with that first. Remember also that in order to avoid triggering a fight or flight response, it is key to keep the conversation focused on the problem and not to inadvertently stray into making the conversation about them as individuals. Now, this is harder than it sounds, and it requires some discipline from you. Avoid charged phrases such as, "You are not measuring up," or "This is unacceptable." Avoid shortcuts like, "You're slacking off," and continue to paint the full picture. For example, you could say, "When you left the work unfinished, it left the project in jeopardy because," so on and so forth.
Example. Offer your employees specific examples of their behaviour. It's not effective to state that sometimes you submit work that is not up to snuff, without being able to back it up. This may require some homework on your part, going through past reports, looking at samples of their work, or interviewing others to get the complete picture.
In this situation, of course, you are likely to be met by any number of deflections, excuses, or reasons why the substandard work is not the fault of the employee.
You may find that they make excuses and rationalise, take the offensive and strike back, or become passive and withdrawn.
These defensive or resistant reactions often make managers uncomfortable. That's okay. You need to learn to sit in that discomfort and not seek an easy solution, take the blame on yourself, or accept an easy out. Here are some key tips that can help in this situation. Concentrate on the reaction of the person. Try to diffuse resistance by not reacting yourself. Drop your own agenda temporarily and focus on the reaction you are presented with. Do not make matters worse by pressing on with further points before the one you're discussing has been accepted and acknowledged. Look for mutual understanding by asking, "What do we currently agree on?" Use your listening and questioning skills to understand the other person and, even more importantly, to demonstrate that you are understanding the other person. And finally, don't be afraid to say something more than once, because often challenging information needs to be reframed and repeated in order to be accepted.
Effect. Return the conversation as often as possible to the effect that the employee's actions have. You can shape the effect by looking at any one or all of the following. The effect on others. It's easier for an employee to claim that he is late because he is a victim of the bus schedule. But it's much harder for them to dispute that since Diane can't leave until he arrives, he is making it impossible for her to pick up her children from daycare on time and causing her to pay extra fees in unnecessary overtime care. Most everyone is concerned for their team members and has a basic desire to be accepted, liked, and acknowledged by them. The impact on the company's bottom line. The employee's actions can be framed in terms of monetary loss, to putting the project behind, or to the company's reputation. This urges them to think of their actions in terms of the broader strategic plan or long-term vision of the company. And finally, the effect on themselves. For some employees, this is more effective than appeals to altruism or impact on business strategy. Try to focus on the employee's engaged response to the effect on themselves as a positive thing. Be careful not to view this as selfishness or evidence of a Machiavellian employee. It might cause you to withdraw or pass judgment on your employee. Even a subconscious response such as this on your part can be read in body language or tone. It's much more helpful to think of appealing to your employees' enlightened self-interest and to think of yourself as their helpful mentor. The truth is that it may take 3 of these ways of looking at the effect to make the impact you're looking for. Discussion of the effect often leads organically into the final future phase and open up the possibility of co-creating a solution.
Future. Once the employee has accepted that there is a problem with an effect on others, then it's time for them to look for help in co-creating a future plan of action.
This is where you can begin coaching them. Note that we haven't recommended any coaching prior to this point in the conversation. In my opinion, you can't coach someone who doesn't even accept that there is a problem. You must first identify the problem, get them to agree that there is a problem before you can begin to take them through any coaching model.
There are any number of coaching models that you can turn to at this phase, and in our next video, we'll discuss a coach model that we find particularly effective. But in broad terms, during the future phase, your job now is to encourage them to continue to take ownership of the problem, guide them to build a plan to address the problem, but without spoon-feeding them, because they'll be much more committed to change when they come up with a plan.
Don't leap to the first solution. Most problems have multiple right answers, so give people the freedom and control they need to come up with multiple solutions. And reinforce the expectation of evaluation. In accountable organisations, no one expects to stay under the radar. In fact, people seek feedback because they know it is intended to improve the process and add to their knowledge. Remember, it's not about punishment, it's about improvement.
Using the B.E.E.F model allows you to use the conversation to identify a specific problem related to performance and not attack them as individuals in a way that threatens their self-worth. As a result, you are much more likely to be able to position the conversation so that you gain their commitment to address the problem. In short, if handled correctly, you can get the unmanageable employee to identify ways they can correct the problem themselves so that they do the heavy lifting for you.